Okay, so hello everyone, and I hope you all are doing good and keeping your mental health in check. We welcome you all to the one and only session of How to Get Away with an Activity. I am Naab Zahid, the Program Capacity Building and Development Assistant 2021 for the VPA NT, and accompanying me is Sakina Mansoor, who is the VPA Assistant of the VPA NT for the present term. Before we go ahead, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the very talented, very humble, and very experienced speakers for this session. First of all, we have Sahiba Maniyar, who was the IFMSA Program Coordinator for Ethics and Human Rights in Health in 2019-2020. Also, the Program General Assistant for 2020 and 2021, the Vice President elect 2021-2022. For activities. She has been a part of more than 9 IFMSA SWGs, coordinated numerous activities. She has been the NORP of her own NMO, and she is doing a wonderful job till now. How are you doing, Sahiba?
Oh, thank you so much. This sounded very nice. I don't know from where you removed all of this information, but firstly, thank you so much for inviting me, Arsalan. Arsalan was a part of our team, and it feels amazing to unite again with him. All I know was your VPA has put it in my head कि बच्चों को सिखा के भेजना है. So I really hope we're able to make this one of the most fruitful 2 hours of your time. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sahiba. We're rooting for you too. And we're hoping that whatever Ashan said to you, that comes up in the session. The next speaker is your favorite, our favorite, Arsalan Nadeem, the VPA IFMSA-Pakistan Vice President of Activities 2020-2021. And he's also the TNT certified trainer, has coordinated more than 9 activities locally, nationally, and internationally. You'll all be very familiar with Scorp podcast. And he has also been the trainee in EMOC 2019 to 2020. And he's doing a marvelous job in the NMO right now. Arslan, how are you doing?
I'm good, and thank you so much for such a wonderful introduction, Ayab. And I'm hoping that this session actually helps people with activity management and whatever they're here to learn today. So, yeah, looking forward to all of that. Thank you.
All right, thanks for being here with us and thanks for arranging this for all of us and being so considerate. Okay, without further ado, let's start with what do you know on WooClap. So this is the link for WooClap. Can everyone join this, please? I'll be sending it in the chat too once. Everyone, please go on the link and join it, and we can then start it from here.
All right, guys, please check the link in the chat box. It's basically a link that you will be entering in your browser, and then it'll show you the question. So you can answer the question on your screens. The first question is, what do you think an activity is? Okay, so we have our first answer, an event planned through mutual discussions, something you do or state of doing something, all right. An action done for a cause, anything that we can do, okay. Guys, I see 43 participants in the call. I want all of you to join the link and answer the questions. An event or campaign, all right. Any organized event under the name of IFMSA action, it's the actions that we take to achieve a particular solution to a problem, or at least a way to advocate for the prevailing. Okay, activity is something that we do or conduct related to some topic or cause, a set of tasks to achieve a particular goal. All right. Okay, so we have a lot of answers, naming events and campaigns, and basically the common theme in the answers is a group event, an action to achieve something, projects, campaigns, celebrations, workshops. All right. Okay, Nayam, can we move on to the next question? Okay, so guys, you guys will have to answer the second question, which is what are the elements of activity management according to you? Cooperation, all right. Being focused, okay. Anyone else? Members, engagement, results, okay. Planning, scheduling, manpower coordination, core team, evaluation, okay. Planning, implementation, follow up, objectives, all right. Communication, teamwork, okay. Initiation, planning, implementation, follow up. Okay, so we have a lot of answers with the theme of planning, initiation, objectives, evaluation, teamwork. Yeah, a lot of teamwork over there. All right, okay. So I guess we have established the general consensus on what all of you think an activity and activity management is. So today, the session that we are having right now is basically to provide you with all the tips and tricks, to provide you with all the guidelines, to provide you with all the shortcuts that you will ever need as to how to get away with an activity. And not just get away, you will be able to have an activity that creates an impact and is successful as well. So now can we move on to the slides and we can start the session. Okay, so a lot of you answered according to your own opinions as to what you think an activity is and what you think are the elements of activity management. So we'll begin by discussing as to what really is an activity. I mean, you guys here in IFMSA, all around IFMSA, you guys must have heard the word activity, but what do you think it actually is? So we define in IFMSA an activity as a unique set of planned interventions designed and implemented to achieve certain specific objectives within a given budget and a specified period of time. And similarly, if we go according to the definition of an activity, so activity management is just basically planning, organizing, and managing resources to bring about the successful completion of specific goals, outcomes, and outputs. So if you look at the crux of the definition for an activity, it's just planned interventions that are designed and implemented to achieve your objectives. And it needs to be within a specific budget and within a specified period of time. And that is the definition that we use to base our definition of activity management, which is we plan, we organize, and we manage our resources to bring about the successful achievement of our objectives as well as our goals and outcomes. Now, can we move on to the next slide, please? So on your screens right now, what you're seeing is basically the activity cycle. This is a cycle that we use in project management as well as activity management, and it consists of three phases. The first phase starts in the planning section. The second one is the monitoring phase, and the third is the evaluation phase. So it's basically a continuous, never-ending cycle that you go through when you're planning or designing your activity. You plan first, and then while you're implementing your objectives or while you're implementing your methods, you monitor the progress that's being made. And once you have may I have previous slide, please? Okay, so once you have monitored and once you have implemented the methodology that you wanted to use for achieving your objectives, you then evaluate as to the progress that you made and the level that you were able to achieve all of your objectives and goals. So this is a cycle that you follow through when you're planning or designing your activity. Next slide, please. We at IFMSA, we have certain types of activities or certain categories of activities in which we combine or we group all activities into. So there are basically six types of activities. The first one being capacity building. Capacity building basically involves training sessions or capacity building sessions. If your activity has a capacity building component, for let's say, for example, if you're conducting a capacity building session on strategic planning, or if you're conducting a capacity building session on conflict resolution, if your activity involves one of those sessions, then yes, it falls under a capacity building activity. The second category is an educational activity. You basically educate the target group or the general public regarding a certain topic, and you're trying to make them aware or you're raising awareness regarding that topic, so that would come under an educational activity. The third category that we have is advocacy. When you're advocating for a certain topic, when you're approaching the governments, when you're approaching certain stakeholders or NGOs in your country or NMO, and you want to create changes through policies, or you want to influence the current policies in your country or in your NMO, and you advocate for certain topics while doing that. So that would fall under the category of an advocacy activity. The third category that we have is campaigns. Campaigns are basically a combination as in of education and advocacy. So if your activity has an educational component, as in you're raising the public, you're raising awareness regarding a public issue, and you're also advocating for it by maybe approaching government stakeholders or maybe influencing them to change policies. So if you combine those two things, then you have an activity that falls under the category of campaigns. The fifth category that you have is research. If you're conducting the research on any topic, if you're basically researching, if you're basically collecting data, you're testing hypotheses, or you're writing a research paper, or any of that sort in your activity, if it involves any kind of research component, that it would fall under this category. The last category that we have is a third party activity. It's basically you providing your services or you providing help to another organization or to another company through your efforts, through your work that you do. So that, for example, if you're helping someone manage their social media department, or if you're helping an NGO manage their finances, so that would be something that would fall as a third party activity. You're doing it within IFMSA, but you're doing it for another organization or another federation. So these are the six types of activities that we have at IFMSA, and each activity usually falls under one of these six categories. Yeah, next slide, please. So we are now going to talk about the activity management elements. There are certain elements that we have in activity management. As I did the boot camp survey at the start of the session, most of you answered regarding planning, objectives, evaluation. A lot of answers focused on planning and interventions of that sort. So we're now going to look at what exactly are the most crucial and the most essential elements that activity management consists of. Next slide, please. Yeah, so if you guys are still wondering, just to increase your curiosity, we just want you guys to brainstorm as to what do you think could these dreaded activity management elements actually be. I mean, activity management has been such a daunting topic, I feel like, in IFMSA, because a lot of people get scared of what actually activity management is, and sometimes they get intimidated by it. So just to increase your curiosity, I want you guys to keep on thinking as to what they actually are before we reveal them. Okay, so before we go on to the activity management elements, we're now going to discuss what an activity proposal is. I'm sure you might have heard this term a lot while working in your own LCs, while working in your NMOs, but let's actually define and let's actually see what an activity proposal is. Next slide, please. So an activity proposal is a tool for obtaining a formal review of a proposed activity. Since obviously by the term proposal, you guys might understand that this is basically in the form of a document. And it's considered a tool that gives you a formal review in the form of a document for whichever activity that you're proposing or whichever activity that you're planning to conduct. In IFMSA Pakistan, for the national system, we have the national enrollment form that you use. It's basically a Google form where you have to submit all the details of your activity. And it's basically a formal review of your entire activity. And then I will look at it, or my team will look at it, and we'll finally send the approval for that activity. So you can consider an activity proposal to just be a document in the form of a Word file or a PDF file, or even a written document or a Google form that you have to submit. And it's a review of your entire activity. Next slide, please. Okay, so as we were wondering what were the elements of activity management and what would be the elements of activity proposal, because in essence, since the entire activity would go to the activity proposal, I mean, if it's a formal review of the entire activity, you would have to include everything that there is about the activity in the proposal itself. So ultimately, the elements of activity management would also be the elements of the activity proposal. The most crucial and the most essential elements that you have in activity management and that are the most vital parts of a proposal are the following. It's the problem statement, the vision, the target groups and beneficiaries, the goals, objectives, and the methodology, as well as the indicators, evaluation, outcomes, and other things. Obviously, we'll be discussing all of them today. And me, along with Sahiba, will guide you through as to how to manage each element. But in gist or in a nutshell, these are the 6 or 5 elements that you can say are the most important part of your activity proposal or when you're managing an activity. So we'll be looking at each element today and discussing as to how to formulate them, in the shortest and the best way possible that there is. Next slide, please. Okay, before we move on, we'd like to show all of you a video, which is basically the golden circle, and you guys will find out more about it when you watch the video. So I'm not going to give any spoilers. I just want you guys, all of you, to basically watch it and understand what it has for you guys.
I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe, in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You ready to buy a computer from me? All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat screen TVs. They've been making flat screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. And Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products, and nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. When we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like features and benefits and facts and figures. It just doesn't drive behavior. When we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls behavior, and then we allow people to rationalize it with the tangible things we say and do. This is where gut decisions come from. You know, sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and your figures, and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Why would we use that verb? It doesn't feel right. Because the part of the brain that controls decision-making doesn't control language. And the best we can muster up is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Or sometimes you say you're leading with your heart, or you're leading with your soul. Well, I hate to break it to you, those aren't other body parts controlling your behavior. It's all happening here in your limbic brain, the part of the brain that controls decision-making and not language. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal?
All right, so all of you were able to watch the video on the golden circle, and now we're just gonna discuss a little bit as to why it's relevant for us and what it exactly means. I mean, he has already explained it in the video itself, but let's just dive a bit deeper as to how it relates to activities at IFMSA. Next slide, please. So the circle, as you saw in the video, basically moves from inward to outwards. You have the why, which is the innermost part, the how, which is the intermediate part, and the what, which is the outermost part. So in essence, the innermost part, which is the why, represents vision at IFMSA for activities. The intermediate part, the how part, represents the goals and the objectives. And the outermost part, which is the what, it represents the methods or the methodology, as you might call it, for activities at IFMSA. So I just want you guys to remember this. And at the end of the session, I promise it's all going to make sense. But for now, just remember this, the parts of the circle or the anatomy of this golden circle. Next slide, please. This is another pictorial representation of the golden circle itself. So the innermost part basically asks you, why do you do what you do? What's the purpose of what you're doing? The intermediate part is, how do you do what do you do? And the outermost part is, what the hell do you actually do when you're doing an activity? So let's see how it actually falls into place for all of the elements that we have in activity management. Okay, so moving on with our discussion, before you begin your activity, before you think of the problem that you want to do, that you want to focus on in your activity, there's something called as a gap analysis, which is a helpful tool, or which is a helpful technique in understanding as to what is the need for your activity. Because time and time again, we have seen in IFMSA that people design activities, they try to implement activities, but they do not actually achieve their outcomes, or they're not able to achieve the desired outcomes that they have, just because they conducted an activity for which there was no need, or they were not able to identify the need of the activity before conducting it. So this is a helpful tool that will actually help you to understand as to why you need to do your activity, and even if there is a need for it or if there is no need for it. Questions that you ask yourself in gap analysis is basically, what is the situation in your country right now? What is the need right now? And what it could be in the future? It's the gap between the current state and the desired state. Let's say, for example, right now, we have COVID-19 infections in our country, and that is the current state that we are in right now. But the desired state would be zero cases of COVID-19 in our country. So the gap between the current state and the desired state is known as, when you figure out that gap, that is known as the gap analysis. And then you actually have an action plan, or basically you formulate an action plan or certain objectives or certain goals to help you go from that current state to that desired state. And an activity is what comes in the place of an action plan. So you conduct an activity to help you move from your current state to your desired state, not fully, because that would be an ideal state, and that would not be possible with just one activity most of the time, but it would help you move at least somehow in the direction of the desired state from your current state. So before you start designing an activity, you actually conduct this gap analysis, or you identify what is the need for that activity. Next slide, please. So once you've identified the need for an activity, you go on to write what is known as a problem statement. This is one of the first elements of activity management, and also the first element of your activity proposal. Obviously, when you have figured out what is the need, you will also identify what is the problem that you're facing, or what is the problem that exists, and why that activity is needed. So a problem statement is a concise description of an issue to be addressed or a condition to be improved upon. It identifies the gap between the current state and desired state, as we looked at in the previous slide with the gap analysis technique, of a process or a product. Focusing on the facts, the problem statement should be designed to address the 5 W's. So you have to write your problem statement in a concise manner, and it should identify the gap between the current state and the desired state. And it actually shows why is your activity needed. Next slide, please, Neha. So there are certain parts of a problem statement, and they can be visually represented in the form of a tree, or a problem tree, you could say. The tree consists of 3 main parts. As you might have noticed, the tree usually has the roots, the trunk, and the branches. So this is the model that we use here in IFMSA when we're formulating our problem statement. We have the parts of the problem statement divided into causes, the main problem, and then the consequences as a result of that main problem. And they all correspond to, the consequences correspond to the branches of the problem tree. The problem corresponds, the actual problem corresponds to the trunk of the problem tree, and the causes correspond to the roots of the problem tree. So this is a model that will help you actually formulate your problem statement into words when you're writing it out. And it's known as the problem tree. Next slide, please. So basically, when you're formulating a problem statement, you go through 3 steps. You first formulate, or you write down all the problems that you can think of regarding that topic. And then out of all of those problems in step 2, you figure out the central problem that you think is the core problem that is resulting in the other problem stemming out from the core problem. So you have to figure out the absolute central problem and circle it out so it's more visually attractive, or it shows you as to this is the central problem. And then in step 3, you basically go on to develop your problem tree, which is when you go from the bottom upwards, from the root to the branches. The roots are the causes, which could be all the problems other than the central problem. The trunk will be the main actual problem, and the branches will be the consequences of that problem. So this is how you can formulate a problem statement, and we look at how to improve it and how to make it into a text in the next slides. So when you're writing a problem statement, the first step needs to be, you need to describe how things should work. You also need to identify and explain the problem and state why it matters. So you need to be very specific, and you also need to explain the actual problem and state why it matters. Explain your problem's financial costs, use statistics, and back up your claims. Your problem statement needs to be evidence-based, and the more statistics or the more data that you use, which is authentic, It will make your problem statement stronger. You also need to propose a solution in your problem statement, and you need to explain the benefits of your proposed solutions. And you need to conclude the problem statement by summarizing the problem and the solution. We look at an example in the upcoming slides, but these are basically the pointers that you need to follow when you're writing a problem statement. And if you follow all these pointers, I can assure you that your activity would have a very good problem statement and would make a very good impression as well as impact. Next slide, please. So a few tips and tricks when you're writing your problem statement, you could ask yourself the questions such as what the problem is, who has the problem, where the problem occurs, when is it occurring, why is it necessary in the community or country around you, how the problem impacts the community or your country. And you need to use credible sources. If you're using statistics or you're using any data that you're including in your problem statement from the internet, you need to be sure that those sources are credible and as those sources are authentic. And you also need to be very concise, specific, as well as measurable while writing your problem statement. So let's take a look at an example of a well-formulated problem statement. So if I read this problem statement out, it basically covers all the pointers that we discussed in the previous slides. The problem statement is as follows. Universal health coverage was and remains to be one of the biggest issues that IFMSA and IFMSA NMOs work on and advocate for. Although the efforts towards UHC on a global scale have been very noticeable, the intended outcomes of it are still quite distant, especially after the fierce damages and disorientation experienced by health systems around the world due to COVID-19. With the UHC World Day coming up, it offers the chance to highlight the importance of UHC, providing knowledge, perspectives, and way forwards to medical students worldwide in a way that would enable them to reflect those values and efforts on their national scale, along with achieving the objectives of IFMSA on the way. So as you can see, this problem statement basically highlights very specific problems. It also highlights the fact as to why the activity is required and what would be the solutions that can be proposed. So it covers almost all of the pointers that we have discussed in the previous slide. And if you guys were not able to read it, or if you guys have missed anything in the previous slides, do not worry, as we'll be sharing the slides with everyone, and the session is also being recorded. It's going up on the YouTube live page of IFMSA-Pakistan as well. So do not worry about that at all. Also, if you guys have any questions regarding any of the things that we're discussing, you guys can send them in the chat box and the moderators are noting them down. At the end of the session, we're going to have an entire question and answer session for all of you to clear your doubts. So you guys can do that as well. Nayab, can you please move on to the next slide? All right, so we have discussed the first element of activity management or the activity proposal, which is the problem statement. We're now going to talk about the second important element, which is the target groups and beneficiaries. Obviously, when you're conducting your activity, you are going to have people that you're going to directly and indirectly create an impact on. So you need to identify who those groups are and who those people are. So we basically divide them into two categories. The first one is the target groups and the second are the beneficiaries. Target groups include the primary beneficiary of the activity, as in the people that you interact with directly, or the people who are affected directly by your activity. So those are the, or if your activity is addressing someone directly, those are the target groups that you have to mention in your activity proposal, or those that you have to note down. The second category are the beneficiaries. Those are simply all the people or larger groups of people who are benefiting from your activity indirectly. Beneficiaries can also be the stakeholders of the activity. So you need to be able to differentiate between target groups and beneficiaries. Generally speaking, target groups, a very good number would be two. One would be amazing, but we allow two target groups to be for the activities. That is a fine number. But more than two target groups is basically a red flag, and usually it decreases the quality of your activity proposal of your activity itself if you have more than three or more than two target groups. So we all would recommend that you keep your target groups limited to one or two and do not exceed that number. Beneficiaries do not have such a limit but you still need to identify all the exact beneficiaries that will be impacted or that will benefit from your activity indirectly. So do not end up selecting those beneficiaries which are not being benefited, because you will ultimately be using this data or using these pointers to calculate the impact. So that might result in that might result in you not being able to calculate the exact impact. So just make sure you write only those target groups and beneficiaries that are relevant and that you are interacting with directly or indirectly. Next slide, please. Okay, so now Sahiba will be taking over, and Sahiba, over to you.
Hi everyone, I'll just share my screen. Give me a minute. Can you hear me?
Yes, Sahiba, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Amazing. Give me a minute, please. Okay, perfect. Okay, amazing. So can you all see my screen right now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I think all of you got a little bit of hang on what is an activity, what are the components of an activity, why must you design an activity. Now that I know so many of y'all, I think I see 50 people on this webinar, I realize there are a lot of people who actually enjoy activity management. But what does it, why do we actually design an activity? You know what, why do we do it? We do it because we want to achieve something. We do it because we want to make a change in this world. We do it because we want to see, we have this little dream that we want to achieve and we want to make a change. So what is that little dream? That dream is what we call a vision. So in this course of 3 to 4 concepts that I'll be talking about, I'll give you maybe 1 or 2 words which closely resemble to the components of activity management, which would help you when you are planning your activity. So because these are things that helped me. Okay, so this vision that I spoke about, vision is something which is a dream you envision. It is something that you want to see in this world, but it is very difficult to achieve, you know. For example, something like what will success look like, or just a broad description of what we want to achieve. It is not going to be perfect. It is not going to be, honestly, a lot of times it is not achievable. It is just an ideal scenario. For example, if every single human on this world was working towards achieving it, what would happen and how would we achieve it? For example, create a world. Okay, I'll go to the next slide. Okay. So, Walt Disney came up with make people happy. We want people to be happy. We want there to be a world where every single person is happy. But is it really possible? No, we're still trying every single year, maybe infinite years later. One day, this vision will become a reality. But for now, we're just working towards it goal by goal, objective by objective. So the next one, super white healthy teeth. Healthy teeth. I mean, all of us have obviously tried using close up. I think I used it in the morning as well. I'm still waiting for the day when I have super white healthy teeth. It is something that I'm going to work. I'm going to floss every day. I'm going to brush every day. I'm going to try to do every single thing that is going to bring me to my dream of achieving these super white healthy teeth. And now coming to our IFMSA. So, in a world where medical students unite for global health and are equipped with knowledge, skills, and values to take health leadership locally and globally, this is a vision that we see for IFMSA. Is it possible to achieve it in whatever period of time? I don't think so. But since 70 odd years, we're celebrating a 70th anniversary. So since 70 years, medical students globally are working to achieve this vision, and they're going to keep working to achieve it. So like I said, vision is a broad dream that you have. It's a broad objective with no realistic perspectives. This simple tip and trick to have a vision, you can never go wrong with this, is begin with in a world where, or in a world in which. It just tries to explain to you that you are looking at it in a broad perspective, and you want to create a world where something like this is going to happen. It doesn't really have to be very specific like your objectives or your goals. It can be, like I said, it is nothing which is realistic. It is just your dream, which can be as vivid as possible. So now your goal, an immediate, it's an immediate result that you want to achieve. there is a difference between a vision and a goal, which I will explain to you. But be very careful and do not misuse these words, or try crossing these words when you're speaking. I'm so sorry. Okay, no issue. A goal is it's a long term objective, but it is something that is attainable. It is a realistic objective. It is something that you want to achieve. You can have one goal and you can have four objectives under it. For example, improve health, improve literacy rates in rural areas of Pakistan, improve knowledge of medical students on right to health. Now, these are things which you can achieve, but it is going to take a long time. So, you're going to have objectives underneath these goals, which are going to help you achieve them. So, it's a broader perspective, which is going to have something called sub goals, if I can say it informally. Please do not use the word sub goals. I'm using it as an informal term just so that you understand. So, a goal, like I said, it is something that you want to achieve. It is realistic, but it is a long term thing. So, it is not something that you can achieve overnight. But when I say improve knowledge of medical students on right to health, is it possible for us to achieve it right away? No, it is not. So, what are we going to do? We're going to have sub goals on how are you going to achieve these goals. So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to ask you, is there anyone who has doubts with respect to what is a goal, what is a vision, or anything before I proceed further? uh Nayab, do you see any questions?
There are no questions right now.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for everyone who responded. Okay,
Okay, so
now,
there is someone who said that they're not clear with the difference between vision and goal.
yes, I'm coming to that. Okay, so there can be multiple goals for one vision. Normally, how do you try to use a goal? You try to use things like increase or decrease. You try to add things like, like we said, to improve, to increase the knowledge of medical students. So you're trying to use these two simple words called increase or decrease. Now, because you asked, I'll address it right away. When I talk about vision, I start with to create a world where medical students, where medical students are empathetic, to create a world where literacy, where there is 100% literacy, to create a world where antimicrobial resistance does not exist, to create a world where COVID-19 ceases to exist, to create a world where every single person is vaccinated. Things like these. These are your dreams that you want to achieve. But when I come to a goal, it is more realistic. It is to ensure medical students are aware about to increase the knowledge of medical students on the right to health, to increase the literacy rates in rural areas of Pakistan, to increase the knowledge of medical students on antimicrobial resistance, to increase the vaccination rates in Pakistan, to increase the amount of knowledge. So, did you get that? Or should I repeat it again? I can go on and on. Are we clear? Okay. So what we do is we ensure that our goals are short. We do not make the goals very long because our objectives are long. Like I said, there is something called a sub goal. That is something that is long. We will come to that. Don't worry. We will come to that. But when I say that a goal is something which is short, because it is a larger perspective. Here, I'm only saying that our medical students should be aware about the right to health. When I talk about its sub goals, I talk about people should be aware about what are human rights. I want people to be aware about what is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I want people to be aware about what is the right to health. I want people to be aware about where is other components that come under the right to health. Now, I spoke about this, someone from Scott would probably be able to understand this, but when I'm talking about a very, normal perspective, people, for example, to ensure 100% ensure people are aware about COVID-19, to increase the knowledge of medical students on COVID-19. I'm talking about medical students are aware about the prevention, I'm talking about treatment, I'm talking about various different aspects of COVID-19. All of those become your sub goals, but your goal is a very large perspective. It is not something where you're seeing the nitty gritties. Are we clear here? I can repeat, there is no problem, I can repeat 10 times. So goals are milestones on the, yes, exactly. Goals are milestones when you're trying to achieve your vision. So your vision, I'll repeat for one last time for those who did not get it. Vision is a dream. You want to achieve it, but you know it's not possible. It's your dream where you can achieve it if every single person of this world once if every single person of this world is working hard to achieve all of these goals, then you can attain your vision. But your goal is something that you can achieve if your activity is done correctly. That is what your goal is. It is not very specific, it is not very exact. This is exactly what I want 100 people to know the basics of human rights and peace. No, you're just saying you want to increase the knowledge of people on human rights and peace, which is okay, which is achievable, which is attainable, which you can do. That is your goal. Okay, again I repeat, it should not be more than one line, and it describes a change that you want to achieve in the way of achieving your vision. Okay, now I spoke about something called sub goals. I said that is a very informal thing. So, what is a formal thing of sub goals? They are objectives. You must have heard your VPA or your VPA assist say it 100 times to you. Objectives must be smart. Now, what are smart objectives? Now, I think we all know how to make objectives. I, as a program coordinator, I realize every single person knows what they want to do with their activity. They know what they want, but there is a difference in between a good objective and a smart objective. A good objective will help you describe your activity in a good way, but a smart objective will be able to inform someone exactly what your activity wants to do, and in turn it will help you when you're finally assessing what you want to do. Now, it is a specific result that a person or system aims to achieve within a time frame with the available resources. So it is finally you're working on your objectives to attain your goals in order to meet with your vision. So this is what you are exactly doing. So vision is a larger perspective, then you are trying to do it through your goals, and then finally you have something, your objectives, which is helping you achieve your goals. Your objectives must be smart. What is smart? Smart is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant or reasonable, and time bound. All of these are extremely important. You cannot miss a single thing when you're making an objective. Now, you cannot say when you're making 4 objectives for one activity, you cannot have one objective which is specific, one objective which is time bound, one objective which is relevant. You can't do that. Every single objective has to be smart. Do not get confused. I will explain to you what it is in the due course. So, what exactly is smart? Let's just have a blank slate. Smart hota kya hai? Smart, S is specific, M is measurable, A is achievable, R is relevant, T is time bound. If you do not know this, ratta maro, learn it and fix it in your head. This is your smart objectives. Number 1, specific. It gives you a clear idea of what has to be achieved. For example, to educate, I'm not going to give you exact objective, we will do that later. When I'm talking about to ensure people have knowledge of in definition of human rights and the universal declaration of human rights, it becomes specific. You can't just say I want people to know about human rights. What do you want people to know about human rights? What exactly do you want to know? Kehna kya chahte ho? That's what your specific is. Measurable. You have to be able to assess that kind of a data, number of people, number of events, number of target audience, number of workshops, all of that comes in measurable. It is something that with that indicator you can measure your success, so that is measurable. Now, achievable in the sense you cannot say that you want to conduct a workshop for 1,000 people. It is not possible to have 1,000 people on a Zoom OLM and expect all of them to understand what you're speaking. Whatever you are planning, you should ensure that It is realistic, it is achievable. Whatever resources you have, whatever human resources you have, you should be able to achieve everything through those resources. Okay. So when I talk about relevant, the next one, keep your goal very consistent with your other goals. Now when I'm saying your objectives, it should be very relevant to your goals. You can't just have a very vague description and you want people to know about COVID-19, but you are saying you want people to also know about hep b vaccine. It's pretty much not possible. It doesn't make sense, it doesn't add up. Now the next one is time bound. Select a date, select a time. Now I will, there are two ways to do this and I will teach you both the ways to do this. You need to ensure your people are aware about how much time are you dedicating uh, to that. Okay, I think someone asked, can it be biased? Could you explain what do you mean by can it be biased? Okay, maybe we could take that up later. I think I'll go to the next one. Okay. I just want to say, if I feel that I need to stop and explain that point, we will address those doubts now, or maybe we could address those doubts later when we are taking up all the question and answers. Okay. So there are tips on how to write smart objectives. You use things like, to, you use things like the, you use things like in when you address target audience, by, like, how many percent of people do you want to change, or also used for volunteers, or who exactly is doing your activity, in how much time is what makes it time bound. You can take a screenshot of this slide because what I'm going to talk, you will get it when I'm going to the next slide. um, could someone please mute themselves? Okay. So if you want, you're free to take a screenshot or wait for 3 seconds. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes. Okay. So now I'm going to the next one. I think we'll take that question a little later. I promise I will take it. Okay. Now, um, I don't know what just happened, but yes. Perfect. Now, this is an example of a smart objective. Please be very careful when I'm reading it. I will tell you what is what. Whoever is sleeping, wake up, wake up, wake up. Now, to educate 100 medical students on the prevention and treatment of COVID-19 by volunteers of IFMSA Pakistan through 2-hour online presentation within 2 months. Okay. So now, first thing is to educate 100 medical students. I'm being very measurable. I'm saying 100. Not, I'm not saying to educate medical students. I'm giving you the exact number of medical students. I want 100 medical students to know. Now, on what exactly? Prevention and treatment of COVID 19. I'm being very specific on what exactly my people should know. So I'm not simply saying I want people to know about COVID 19. That could be my goal. I can't say that is my objective. My objective has to be very specific, exactly what I want them to know they should know. Now, by whom? By volunteers of IFMSA Pakistan. How? And what is the time frame? 2-hour online presentation within 2 months. Now, why did I say 2-hour online presentation within 2 months? A lot of NMOs, including my own NMO, what they do is, say if they have 100 medical students, we do a national activities, even you all do national activities. A lot of times it becomes very difficult to have a capacity building session for 100 people. So what we do is we divide people into 20, 20, 20, 20, and have 5 sessions. When I am saying 2-hour online presentation within 2 months, I mean all those 5 sessions of for 100 population has to be done within 2 months. It can't exceed 2 months. This is my time frame. A lot of times people stop at 2-hour online presentation. That is okay. Only and only if you have just one session. If you have one session, that is your perfect objective. But if you have more than one session, it is not your perfect objective. Now, if according to me, if I am an activity coordinator, If you tell me that you want to train 100 medical students through a 2-hour online presentation, it is not going to happen. You are not going to, it is not possible. You will have a low impact, you will have a low outreach, and hence it is much better when you're dividing those sessions. Coming to the next one, to introduce 200 members of general population to basics of hand washing, its steps and importance by volunteers of IFMSA Pakistan through 15-minute door-to-door sessions within 2 months. When I'm saying this, 200 members means it is very measurable. Who? Who are we addressing this to? Our general population. What do we want them to know? We're being very specific here again. Basics of hand washing, its steps, and its importance. Who is doing your activity? Volunteers of IFMSA Pakistan. How are they doing it? They're going door to door individually to people's houses. And how much time is it going to take? 15-minute sessions. Now, when I say within 2 months, I mean to say all of these 200 people ka education or the session that we are going to do has to get over within 2 months. Okay. So, do you have any doubts with that now? Because we are going to go to the example. Okay, I'm sorry, I just felt someone has some doubt and I went to the chat box. Okay. So do you have any doubts with respect to this right now? No, I'm assuming we can go to the next one because now it's you who's going to help me. Okay, perfect. I'm glad everything is clear. Okay, so now I need you to unmute yourself and come forward and tell me whether this is a smart objective or not. To ensure 1,000 children are trained on self-defense techniques. Is it smart or is it not smart? No. Okay. No. All right. All right. All right. Amazing. If not smart. Yes. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Amazing. 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 Okay. Yes, it is not smart. Now, for all those lovely people who said it's not smart, why is it not smart? Please unmute yourself, because if you don't unmute yourself or you don't put it on the chat box, I will pick. No time frame. Yes, it's not time bound. Yes, amazing. Anything else?
Excuse me, Sahiba, we had Sidra raise her hand. I think she wants to speak.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I can't see. Please just speak because I'm not able to see. Yes, please speak. Please speak.
No, I just wanted to add that it's not smart because it's not time bound and not achievable because it's mentioning like 1,000 children at one point. And I guess, yes.
Yes, yes, perfect. Yes, amazing. Thank you so much for answering. Okay, so now I'll just go through the chat box as well. Some people said it's not time bound. Perfect, amazing, very good. Trained by whom? Yes, I don't know who is it trained by. It can be trained by someone from the gully. I mean, my neighbor can be training. I can be training. I'm not trained in self defense techniques. An NGO could be training, which is great. IFMSA trainers could be training. So the credibility of your objectives would be seen by who is training. The next one is okay, it's not specific. Someone also said it's not specific. Yes, so a lot of things is not visible in this objective. So how would we make it smart? Could anyone unmute themselves or put it on the chat box? That's also fine. On how to make this a smart objective according to you. Anyone? Take your time. Take your 15
Well,
seconds.
it could be if we mention the time frame as well and decrease the
Okay.
number of children. Like,
Take your time and tell me uh, your whole objective. I'm giving you, say, 1 minute or say 50 seconds. Type it on the chat box. This is very, very important. If you miss this, if you have your smart objectives and your smart indicators, trust me, you have won your RCA or your activities fair. I mean, I hope, yeah. Don't count me accountable for this. But it is the best way to achieve your impact as well. Yes, Ali, I agree. Tareem also, I agree. But would you be able to put it on the chat box? To ensure 200 children are trained by professionals on self-defense techniques in the time frame of 2 months. Okay, amazing, quite nice. To ensure 1,000 children are trained by 10 martial arts on techniques of self-defense in 2 months. This was amazing, very good. Okay, so I think some of y'all are aware. We can go to the next one as well. To ensure that 50 children are trained for self-defense by ABC trainer through a week-long workshop. Amazing. Okay, this makes me feel very satisfied. So now I'll just sum it up with, to ensure, I could keep it at 1,000 children. I could, and I'll show you how, because I see everyone has changed it. So I'll show you how to do that. To ensure 1,000 children are trained on self-defense techniques by, I'll continue with 10 martial arts trainers of XYZ NGO through 10, through maybe some 15 national sessions of 2 hours each within 3 months. You could do this as well. Yes, I saw Rifat put in Islamabad. It could be, yes, if you want to limit it just to one city, you could put it like that as well. So, like I said, if you have a huge target audience, you can do that. In fact, we had an activity where we achieved 14,000 as our target audience. How did we do it? We had 53 national events, small, chotu, 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 chotu events. So you could do that. You could have maybe 50 people in every single event coming, a different martial art trainer teaching them, and you achieve whatever you want to. Going to the next one. Okay. Please don't think I'm boring you with this. Trust me, you will bless me at the end of it. To ensure 500 medical students are trained on human rights by IFMSA trainers in a 2-hour online session. Is this smart? Is this not smart? And why? Okay, first, is this smart? Is this not smart? Not smart. Okay, very good. Even I know it is not smart. Why is it not smart? Not achievable. Okay. Anything else? Number is high. Yes, it is not achievable. Absolutely. Anything else? It's online. Okay. Abhi to kuch choice nahi hai. We have to go online. Time frame is small. Yes. Not specific. Okay. Do you want to tell me why is it not specific? Anyone? Topic is broad. Amazing. Yes, this is exactly what it is. So, firstly, 500 medical students in an online session for 2 hours. What are they going to learn? Nothing. They're going to sleep. Secondly, human rights. What on human rights? What exactly on human rights? Definition, Human Rights Day, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. What exactly? So this objective, although it looks very smart, it is the objective that 99% people use. That they try to do an activity in this way, and the activity not only fails, but also your objective is incorrect. Now, going to the next one. To educate 1,000 women on the importance of education by volunteers of IFMSA Pakistan through 2-hour online presentation within 1 month. Is this smart? Is this not smart? Don't say not smart without thinking. Smart. Okay. Okay. It is okay. Okay. Anyone else? Think, thoda, think. Take your time and think. Read it again and think. Okay. Okay. Not achievable. Why isn't it achievable? Now you tell me, why isn't it achievable?
Okay, so I think this is not achievable because this is an online presentation thing, and gathering 1,000 women for online presentation thing is like quite difficult because the literacy rate is quite low, and the facility of internet is quite low, and we cannot gather 1,000 women for this online thing.
But I am saying 2-hour sessions within 1 month. Now you can have 10 sessions also. 10 different sessions.
Uh, that was just a thought by me.
You're absolutely correct. Don't worry. You're absolutely correct. Okay. So yes, women who actually need this might not be able to have access of the internet. Absolutely. This is the most, as such, the objective is smart, but it does not make sense. It's not achievable at all because 1,000 women, amazing. It's a great number. You're very specific with respect to importance of education. Who is doing it? Volunteers of Pakistan. You're giving 2 hour sessions, 1 month, may so many different sessions you're going to do. Amazing. But we are talking about uneducated women. We're talking about people who may not be educated is one side, but education in our countries is quite proportional to the financial ratio to the rural areas. Do our rural areas have electricity? I am sitting in a city, I don't have electricity. So a lot of we need to consider all of these things when we are trying to achieve our objectives of the activity. So whoever sent me the message, thank you so much. Okay, so we need to think about all of these things when we are making an activity. It has to be realistic. When we are going to 1,000 women, they are uneducated women. How are we going to expect them to come online? Pehle to when we are going to make them sit online, how are they going to understand what I'm going to say because they are not literate? तो उनको video दिखाएंगे. How are we going to do it? It's pretty much not possible. So this entire activity will fail flat on our face. So it is not a smart objective. Okay, so I think our smart objective is over here. I'm assuming a lot of you participated, so you all understood what a smart objective is. If there is any doubts, please stop me right away, and we can revise. Anyone? Okay, all good, amazing. Okay, I'll wait for 3, 2, 1. I'm going to the next one. Okay, now we heard about three things: one vision, one goal, and one objective. What is a vision? It is a dream. What is the goal? It is a long term objective. What is an objective? It is something very specific, very achievable, very realistic, very time bound, and very measurable. Sorry. Okay. So now, goals, they are outcomes that you intend to achieve. I'll explain to you what exactly is an outcome as well. Now, a goal is broad, it is intangible, it is abstract. Like when I'm saying to improve the knowledge of medical students on human rights, we are working year after year to achieve it. But it is not something which you can evaluate 100%. Okay, improve matlab 40%, say 45% is also improvement, means I've achieved my goal. Okay, that is your goal. But objective is the actions that helps you achieve your goal. I explained this earlier, I'm just revising it. Now, a goal is broad, it is intangible, it is abstract, but an objective is specific, it is tangible, it is measurable, it is achievable. It has a time frame. A goal does not have a time frame. I'm just saying, मुझे improve करना है. How much time मुझे improve करना है? I don't know. Whatever amount of time it takes, I want to improve the situation in my country and in the world is your goal. But your objective is, I want to improve it within 1 year. I want to improve the knowledge of at least 100 students within 1 year, which is fine, which is achievable, which is possible. That is your objective. 10 times if I'm doing this activity means 100 plus 100 plus 100 plus 100 means I'm going a little closer to my goal. Okay, so this is the difference between your goal and your objective. Now, methods and methodology. You know, when as an activity coordinator, when I was doing an activity, my favorite part was this methodology. I hated the objectives and goals and vision, and it was so boring, it was so pathetic, it was exhausting because it was just very technical. Methodology is the space where you can be as creative as you want. Of course, COVID-19 is restricting our creativity, but methodology is the reason why people join your activity. We had activities where we were sending people door to door, and explaining them about the diseases of monsoon and how to cure them. We went door to door. We sent people to sabzi walis abhi. I hope you get what I said. Vegetable vendors, and we tried explaining to them, the importance of education. We actually taught women about how to read and write, and the fact that people were actually going down and making a difference, they were teaching people how to read and write, was exciting people to do the activity. So your methodology is the reason why people will want to join you, because it becomes very monotonous when you're just going to a classroom, explaining medical students, starting a PowerPoint presentation. Try to be creative when you're doing activities. That's how you will also like it, that's how people will also like it, and that's how you will achieve different kind of objectives. Now, different methodologies will help you achieve different objectives. You, like I said, you cannot expect, you know non-literate women to be able to know about literacy or importance of education through online means. It's impossible. But through online means, we also noticed that we could have discussions on, we had something called Scott podcast, which was extremely successful. I mean, we had thousands of people who were joining the Scott podcast, and we had so many people who were watching the reruns on YouTube, which was amazing. So your methodology will actually define what you achieve, and whether it is matching to your idea, your topic, your target population, what your objectives are. Everything is based on your methodology. Now, it has to be it has to be step by step. You have to give details only of your major events. Now, I can't say I first contacted my national vice president for activities. My national vice president for activities gave me made an SWG. From the SWG, we selected 5 people. We did the SWOT analysis. After that, after 2 days, we decided which topic to no, no. And trust me, there are people who do that. We do not encourage that. You have to define major events that you did. You define a timeline, you define resources. For example, you contacted the community medicine department, you contacted XYZ NGO, you contacted your university, you contacted your hospital, you contacted whoever. Then you talk about, of course, you talk about with the help of an SWG, you all did this, but you don't have to get into the nitty gritties. A call was sent out for the SWG. Nobody wants to know that. People want to know what your activity is, not how you did it. Okay, so do not pollute your goals and objectives here. We do not uh, everything of your methodology does not have to be in your goals and objectives, and everything of your goals and objectives does not have to be in your methodology. Your goals and objectives should just say whether it was online or on ground, whether it was done with the help of presentation or charts or something like that. Basic idea on how it was done. Now, what I missed, I think I missed saying this to you. It is possible that in one activity, consider this to be an on ground activity. I am using a PowerPoint presentation, I am using flip charts, I am using a game. As and when your methodology changes, for example, I am explaining to you what are human rights through a presentation. So that becomes a part of my objective. But if I am saying explaining Universal Declaration of Human Rights using a game, I put that in my objective, and I don't say just using a presentation. Okay? So it changes in my objective as and when I am changing my methodology. Now, in my methodology, I am trying to give all the different step-by-step things that I'm using. With the help of a community medicine department, the content was developed by so and so people. Um, I'm going to use games, flip charts, presentations. Uh, I got finances from this one. All of that should go in your methodology. Now, it should assess your resources. What are your resources? सिर्फ पैसा resource नहीं होता. Only money is not your resource. Your resource is also time. Your resource is also human resources. Your resource is also content. Your resource is a lot of things, that everything that you need, your logistics, your energy, everything becomes a part of your resource. It has to be very logical, it has to be very definite, it has to have a fixed plan. Now, in case you are changing your methodology, everything changes. So I hope I'm clear over here. Methodology should include your basic things, but not of your activity, not your planning of your activity. Okay, what you are going to do on that D day. Like, for example, let me talk about Chirag. When I talk about Chirag, because I'm going to use your activities and only those activities that I'm aware about as an example. It was a capacity building session. Her story, it was a capacity building session. So when I'm saying these activities, to explain people, we used content from so and so people, we called NGOs, we had international trainers teaching, and so on. Planning nahi likhna hai. Okay, going to the next one. Now everything is done. You've written your vision, you've written your goal, your objectives, your problem statement, your methodology, your activity is done, everything. How do you know whether you have actually made a change or not? You do it through an evaluation. Your evaluation will give you a feedback. It tells you whether you are successful or not. It gives you an idea of whether you've achieved your goals, your objectives or not, whether you're on the right path or not. Kaise karte? There are two methods. Now we're going to give you a very basic idea. It's not going to be very hi-fi. Just using these methodologies, you will be definitely able to sail through your evaluation. You won't have an issue with that. So there are two methods. One is qualitative, one is quantitative. Now, qualitative is more like, a humanly feedback. You ask people, kaise tha? How was my activity? Was I good? Was I good as a trainer? Was that trainer good? Um, was the place okay? Sunai diya? Things like that. That is your qualitative method. You take photographs. You try asking people personally. Then, for example, if you're conducting a session on, say, child abuse, and one person comes and tells you, thank you so much for helping me. Now I'm going to go and talk to the person who abused me, or I'm going to go and seek help. Something like that. That is your positive feedback. That is your qualitative evaluation. When I'm talking about quantitative evaluation, now these are your concrete results. These are you're able to measure your change. You're able to calculate the change you've made. You're taking a pre-event questionnaire, you're measuring the baseline assessment. You're taking the post-event questionnaire, you're assessing you're assessing their knowledge after the activity. All of this gives you very fixed measurable kind of a change. That 70% people got change. Yeah, 100 may say only 30 people understood. Shit, 70 people didn't understand. Ab kya? Okay, let's do it again. It's your statistic. It's based on statistics. It gives you an actual idea. Okay, so now I'll stop and I will ask you again, as an activity coordinator, what would you prefer? Would you prefer a qualitative method of evaluation, or would you prefer a quantitative method of evaluation, and why? It's okay. Put it in the chat box. Unmute yourself. Any of that is okay. Mixed. Okay. Okay. Very good. Depends on the activity. Okay. Great. Both. Okay. Quantitative. Okay. Why quantitative? A qualitative method as it represents the thoughts of the society. Amazing. Okay, there is no right answer to this. Okay, this is you are the activity coordinator. I just want you all to share your thoughts with each other. Gives the actual effectiveness of the activity. Okay, both. All right. Okay, now when I was an active, like I said, there is no right answer to this. As an activity coordinator, I used to love qualitative methods of evaluation, because I used to get the satisfaction that, oh, okay, so you mean my trainers were good? You mean my volunteers actually liked my session? You mean, oh, 300 women actually learned how to read and write? That's so amazing. That is my qualitative method. Someone comes and tells me, that day when you told me, I actually went and seek mental health help. Okay, amazing. It satisfies me that, okay, my activity achieved what it had to. Now, but when you are presenting your data in your activity sphere for your success of your activity, all of this draws down to your quantitative method of evaluation, because qualitative method can be rigged, quantitative method is right in front of you. So of course you definitely use both methods of evaluation, always, 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 always. This was just my personal perspective on both of them, and I'm glad that most of you all think the same. So yes, you always use both. but qualitative gives you an actual on-ground idea, but it can be rigged. Your quantitative method can be fake. People can use Google. People can, give fake ideas. Would you seek help in case of, if you go through a mental health breakdown? Yes, I would, but no one will. So it's a very, you can't actually assess whether you've made an actual change to quantitative method, but it both has its pros and cons. This is all I wanted you to understand. Okay. Now, success indicators. How do you achieve and how do you check whether your evaluation is complete, not complete? What exactly am I assessing? ठीक है, evaluate तो करना है, but करना क्या है? That is your success indicators. If you see, there's a test tube over here and it's changing color. That is exactly what your activity is doing. It is actually making a change. Now, there are measures that you would correlate with your objectives, and you would try to check whether you have actually achieved your objectives or not. To what extent are your objectives achieved or not? All of this is your success indicators. What is the percentage of people who actually um, kind of, how many people do you think should be achieving? When I'm saying to educate 100 people, I am not expecting that 100 people are going to achieve my objective. 100 people will never be able to understand your activity. If you are hoping that 100% evaluation, 100% impact, your activities fail, or you are fail, or you're not able to understand what your activity is. Okay? So or you're living in your unrealistic world, because there are always going to be at least 10% of your people who will not understand your activity, or it will be unsuccessful, or you are trying to achieve something which is not very great, or the change is not very great. Okay? Now, types of success indicators. There are two types. Now, this, what I'm explaining to you, is what I have done as an activity coordinator. Everyone has their own way of doing it. There are two ways of, there are two types of success indicators. One is general and one is specific. I always like to keep it like that. General means number of target audience, number of volunteers, number of events. Like if I'm doing a workshop for 1,000 people, like I said, I want to have 10 sessions. So how many sessions did I conduct? 10. Number of workshops. All these things are my general indicators. Or, if I'm distributing sanitary napkins, number of sanitary napkins distributed. All of that is my general indicator. Okay, it's not giving me an exact idea. Specific, I will correlate it with my objective. I will correlate every single success indicator with my objective. Now, the best way to do it and the simplest way to do it is objective, one objective, put it up. उसके नीचे put उसका success indicator. Next objective, उसके नीचे उसका success indicator. Next objective, उसके नीचे उसका next success indicator. So you don't miss anything. Now you will try to say whether you want to have a qualitative or quantitative for every single objective. I can say, I can say that, three people in qualitative analysis, three people come up to me and they want to, they agree to seek mental health. But that is a qualitative evaluation. Now, 99.9% of the success indicators that we get in the IFMSA programs does not have qualitative in their success indicators. You can be a good activity coordinator and put that as well. Most of you all said, both. Most of you all. Literally, I thought actually going on ground and doing both. Not many. I have not seen a single trust me. I've not seen a single activity that has given me a success indicator that includes smart. Okay, is my voice?
Yes,
Could
Sahiba,
someone?
your voice is breaking.
Okay, give me a minute. Is it okay now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so where do you want me to repeat from?
I think it started to break off when you were discussing about qualitative indicators.
So you mean the previous slide?
Oh no, this slide only where you were talking about qualitative indicators.
Okay, amazing. Okay. So when I talk about specific indicators, there's something called quantitative and qualitative. Most of y'all, when y'all were mentioning, but the number of activities that actually have both kinds of qualitative and quantitative methods of evaluation in their success indicators is zero. As a program coordinator, I have not come across a single activity that had both methods of evaluation, which is very sad. Just because qualitative is very difficult to assess, not many come up with it. And we restrict ourselves to just quantitative method, which is in a way incomplete. So I'm not saying they are wrong. I'm just saying it would be better if we have, both methods of evaluation in our success indicators. Okay. Always your success indicators have to be smart. So the best way, like I said, objective indicator, objective indicator, objective indicator. Okay. Now let's do some smart indicators. Okay. So to educate, I'm going to use the same examples that I use for objectives so that it's better for you all to understand. To educate 100 medical students on prevention and treatment of COVID-19 by volunteers of IFMSA Pakistan through 2-hour online presentations within 2 months. Now, how do I do these success indicators? Very simple. More than 70% of my target population are able to identify the prevention and treatment assessed assessing by the comparison between pre and post event questionnaires. So for year, normally we all use pre and post event questionnaires, so that's what I have put. So I'm giving, if you notice, the only change that I have made is 70% and comparison between pre and post event questionnaire. I've continued it exactly the same way. Now the best way to do it is I'm so sorry, include the 2-hour presentation within 2 months. No one includes it, and it is not 100% compulsory. Okay. So you make your objectives 100% smart. Your indicators could be this smart. If you put the time bound, it is amazing. It's perfect. But this is also acceptable. Okay. Now, to introduce 200 members of the general population to basics of hand washing, its steps and importance by volunteers of IFMSA Pakistan through 15-minute door-to-door sessions within 2 months. This was my objective. Now, what is my indicator? More than 70% of the target population are aware of the basics of hand washing, its steps and its importance by assessing by comparison between pre and post-event questionnaires. Okay, exactly the same. 99% success indicators are made in this way. Copy paste, change the numbers in the front and put how you're going to evaluate it at the back. Now, I as an activity coordinator normally choose 70%. Some people choose 60%. Some people choose 50%. But it's my suggestion. 50% se kam mat karo. When you're going below 50%, then your activity has a very small impact. What you want to achieve also becomes very limited. Of course, if you want to achieve something very massive, it's a different case. But my suggestion is, go for something of 50% plus. Wouldn't a questionnaire be inefficient in this case? Yes, it would be, but it depends upon it depends upon how you make your questionnaire. Now I can talk to you as a personal experience of mine. We did an activity called Udan in my NMO. If you all must have heard of it. It included, actually going on ground and teaching women how to read and write. And this is an activity I'm very proud of. That's why I'm going to mention it. Uh, in that activity, I did not expect women to actually know whether they could read and write. So what we did was we asked those women, A likho, B likho, write A, write B, write C, write numbers 1 to 10. If they could, our volunteers filled it in for them. For example, they filled the question stated, could your target population write the alphabets from A to Z? Yes. Could your target population write the object? Yes. Or, so on. So you could have your questionnaires being filled by your volunteers as well. It depends upon you as an activity coordinator on how you want to achieve it. The best way to do it would definitely, you cannot ask the people, how many steps of hand washing are there? 5. this is not your successful activity. I don't think you will be able to achieve what you actually want to achieve. Although on paper your activity will be very, very, very successful, because I'm sure 100% people will know how to, that there are 5 methods of hand washing, but it depends upon how you want to do it. So yes, you can ask the person, wash your hand and show it to me, and then your volunteer could definitely, put a tick or a not in your Google form. Did I answer your question, Ali? Was it satisfying? If you could just put a yes or a no. Amazing. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to the next one. If anyone has any doubts with respect to smart indicators, you can stop me, because we're almost at the end of it. Okay.
I have a question. How many smart indicators do we have to write for an objective? Can you only write one, or can we write more than one?
One objective, one indicator. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
That's the best way to do it. You can say that 70% know about hand washing, 70% know about its steps, 70% know about its importance. Doesn't make sense. It's better to have it in one only. It's simpler. So, and this is the most simple way to do it. Okay, outcomes. Now, when I said I will explain to you what are outcomes. Outcomes is the end result of your activity. I am using the pre-event questionnaire. I'm using the post-event questionnaire. I'm assessing 70% say how many people actually knew the steps of hand washing. Oh, 80% people knew. Okay. 90% people knew about its importance, and so on and so forth. That becomes my outcome, that 80% people were able to understand the importance of my whole activity. It's your impact. Your outcome is the end result of your activity. It is the main change that you're making with your activity after the culmination of everything. And this is the most satisfying part. It's the part where you see what you're actually doing, and what exactly you've done and how you've achieved everything. So it's the most amazing part of your activity. Okay. I think I'm done right here. I am going to hand it back to Nayab. And if you have any doubts, now you can put it in the chat box about anything with respect to activities. And I think Nayab will take it up from here. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Sahiba, being so clear on everything. And personally, I enjoyed it, and the tension level was maximum. From here on, Sakina will be sharing her screen and she'll be taking over. Sakina, can you take over?
Yes, okay. So before we head on to the question and answer session, we'll just have a short quiz. The quiz is obviously not to daunt you, and you won't be getting marks for it. It's just so that we can kind of know how much you have learned. So I'll be sharing a link, and you will have to open up that link on another browser or your phone, whatever suits best. And from then onwards, we can start.
Guys, the link is in the chat box. You just need to click it and go to the next web page.
Sakina, are we on the quiz?
Yes, we are on the quiz, but we have only 21 participants till now. And we have 39 people in the call. So, guys, please join in as soon as you can. so
All
that
right, guys, we only have a very short quiz and we're trying to assess what you gained from the session. So please join in. So the first question is, what order of specificity should you follow while planning an activity? And I feel like we have the right answer with us already. 17 people voted for the option vision, goals, objectives, and methodology in that order. Okay, we have 18 people with that response now. Okay, we can move on to the next question, Sakina. Okay, so the next question is, each object should have one indicator of success. What do you guys think? Guys, whoever is answering doesn't really matter. I think Sahiba just explained it to us right now. Okay, so I'm glad we have 80% responses as true. And yes, that is the correct answer. Each objective should have one indicator of success. Next question, please, Sakina. Okay, so guys, please look at your phone screens and you'll find out. Please select the one that you think which objective is not smart. Sorry, the most smart among these. So you have 4 objectives on your screen and you have to select the most smart objective. Okay, so we got 19 votes on the third objective, and that is the correct option. So I guess we were successful in helping you guys understand the concept of smart objectives, and one of the main aims of this session was to do that. So I'm very glad. Sakina, does that mark the end of the quiz, or do we have more questions?
we have 2 more questions.
Okay, okay. All right, so the next question is actions, timeline, and resources used should come under. You have the following options: objectives, evaluation, goals, and methodology. Okay, so let's see the answers. So we have 17 people with the correct answer. And again, yes, all of those things can come under the heading of methodology. So those are the things that you include in your methodology. Next question, Sakina. So we have the last question on the screens. In the problem tree, the trunk corresponds to, and the options are consequences, focal problem, causes, and objectives. So what do you think does the trunk of the problem tree corresponds to? Which of the following options? And we have 13 people selecting the right option, which was the focal problem. So I guess many of you were able to understand the concept of the problem tree. All right, so that marks the end of the quiz. And the floor is open now, guys. You can unmute your mics and ask any questions that you have, or you can send them in the chat box and let us know who it is directed to, whether it's directed to me or Sahiba, and or you guys could even message them to Nayab and Sakina as well if you guys want to ask any anonymous questions. So the floor is open, and you guys can start sending in your questions. Whichever questions you guys have, we're here to answer all of them, and so please ask us whatever you want to. Nayab and Sakina, can you guys make a maybe record the questions and then let us know the questions?
Arsalan,
Yes.
I think you've got appreciation for your podcast idea.
Oh, okay. I wasn't seeing the chat. I'm sorry. Okay, so it says this is sort of a personal question. How did you come up with the podcast idea? Okay. So it was completely random. I would say, I mean, it wasn't random. I wanted to do an activity which was on a large scale, but fun fact, it was the activity that I wanted to do as a solo activity coordinator. I wanted to have the experience of coordinating an entire activity on my own solely without any other activity coordinators. So I decided to, and then at that point of time, I also realized podcasts were something very popular and people were listening to more and more of them. And they were you could say, the sensation on the internet. And even right now, I feel like podcasts are increasingly getting more and more popular. So I realized what other way would be even more beneficial for us than to just have podcasts talking about human rights. And also, I looked at how back in April 2020 or May 2020 when we decided to conduct this activity. And at that point of time, the COVID-19 pandemic had just started. So we were just getting the news reports of how human rights were being violated all across the world, especially in countries where they were putting down lockdowns and where they were having refugees being treated in pathetic conditions. So that was also one of the motivating factors for me to conduct this activity. So I hope that answers your question. Podcast 2.0 in making, and not right now, and no plans in the pipeline. But if there are any such plans, you obviously I'll let you guys know. But for now, no.
Okay, Arsan, there was a question in the beginning that what is the most important part of a problem statement? Is it the cause because it's the root, or the consequences, or the
Okay.
branches, and if is it was?
Okay, so the most important part of the problem statement would probably be the problem itself. You need to specify one problem and you need to be concise and you need to be very specific. It cannot be a broad problem. It needs to be a very specific and targeted problem. So the main, I would say, if you look at the problem tree, the trunk that you have of the tree corresponds to the main or the focal problem. So that is the most important part of the problem statement, if I had to highlight the most important part. But that does not go without saying that all the other parts are kind of important as well. So all the pointers that we mentioned today regarding the problem statement, I would suggest you guys focus on all of them to make a completely wholesome problem statement that covers all aspects and is of a good quality. So yeah, I hope that uh, answers the question.
Okay, thank you, Arsalan. So we had a question for Sahiba. There was just one comment that mentioned objectives being biased. So over here, by biased, it means that taking a side instead of maintaining a neutral stance, like getting political and using trigger words which could offend a certain group of peoples. Is that acceptable when we're writing down objectives?
Okay, so this is one thing I can say on a very personal level. We're all people who are trying to make a change, but we're also medical students. Using trigger words, I don't know what you mean by them, but I am imagining something very extreme. So do not do something that could get you behind bars. Please, through an activity. It's nice to bring a change. But if you could explain me a little about what do you mean by, trigger words or getting political or something like that, it would be good. Because I am not able to imagine that. If you could just, I it's my personal suggestion. Do not say anything throughout your activity, whether it is in your planning stage, in your project design, in your activity on ground. Okay, I think okay. Whenever you're doing your activity, in the whole course of your activity, do not offend anyone. Try not to use anything that is not going to go with the vision and main motto of IFMSA Pakistan or IFMSA as well. So I would not suggest using any kind of so there are a lot of ways. I mean, if you want to address an activity, if you want to do a protest or something like that, there are a lot of ways to use those statements, to put those objectives in a very different way. What you can do is you can WhatsApp me, and maybe I could let you know, or maybe you could talk to Arsalan as well. He's been a So you could text me, because I am going on a very different tangent. But no, do not offend anyone. There are a lot of ways in which you can make your objective very strong but not very offensive. So yes. So
Thank you,
any
Sahiba. Arsan, the next question is for you. That in step one of formulating a problem, what does it actually mean to formulate a problem?
Okay, so this was basically the steps in formulating the problem statement. Step one was you write down all the problems that you think are the actual related to the problems that you're listing down. For example, if you're maybe if you're trying to think of the problem of obesity in high school, or maybe if you're trying to think of a problem, let's say shortage of workforce in a hospital. So all of the causes or all of the sub problems, you could say, or all of the factors contributing to those problems are basically a problem in themselves. So you have minor problems, and then you have major problems, and then you have one main problem. So in the first step, you have to write all of those problems down. And then that is in the second step when you figure out the absolute central problem, which is causing all of those other problems. And then you circle that central problem out. So the first step, it's basically listing down all the problems that you think are causing each of them. So, and then in the second step, you figure out your central problem. So I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thank you, Arsalan. So we have the next question for Sahiba. And the question is that can we just have a one-line objective statement?
all our objectives are only one line. Don't have 2 or 3 line objective statements. Just one line. Whatever I explained to you is just one line. You cannot not have everything of the objectives. All your smart things has to be only in one sentence. But your goal is definitely shorter. But your objective is only one sentence.
Okay.
All right, Sahiba, thank you so much. The next question is for Arsan. Can your LC plan multiple activities online with an overlapping time frame?
Okay, so this is a very good question, and I've had many LCs asking this. Yes, definitely. Even if you have online activities, you have physical activities, you can have three, four, five, any number of activities happening at the same time, provided that you have the approval of for all of them from the national VPA, which is me as well as my team. So once you guys have approvals for all your activities, you do not have to worry about whether they're overlapping or whether they have a similar timeline. It all depends on you. Even if the activity coordinators are the same for all of those activities and they're able to handle the workload and they're voluntarily proposing those activities. So it's not something that we would stop you on. You have the full authority to do that. Only thing is you guys will need approvals from my side, and we approve activities only after reviewing them and the quality of them. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Arsalan. So the next question is for Sahiba. And the question is that can you please differentiate between outcomes and success indicators, and what is its correlation with qualitative and quantitative analysis? Like, how do these relate with each other?
So, the difference between outcome and success indicators. Okay. Success indicators, for example, you're passing for MBBS, your success indicator is 50%. You need minimum 50% to pass. That is your success indicator. But your outcome is 65%. Agar suppose if you get, great, amazing. But 65% is your outcome. So what I mean by that is minimum 50% so you have to get. But if you get above 60, but whatever you get above that, that is your outcome. But now, if suppose if you do not get 50%, if you get just 40%, that is also your outcome. Your outcome, in other words, is your result. Whatever you are getting with your activity at the end of it is your outcome. Your success indicator is your baseline. Okay, 50% ke aar ya par, this way or that way, is your success indicator. If I am below 50, I am fail. If I'm above 50, I'm pass. That is your success indicator. But whatever the result be, whether pass or fail, that is your outcome. Now, when I talk about qualitative and quantitative analysis, qualitative and quantitative analysis means how are you going to evaluate your activity. So these are very different things. I'll explain to you again so that there are no more confusions. Like I said, your qualitative and quantitative analysis will help you assess your your activity, your evaluation. So your qualitative will be through interviews, through photographs, through discussions, through feedbacks. Your quantitative will be through your pre and post event questionnaires and so on. That how what these are the ways in which you assess. Okay, how to assess, these are the ways in which you assess. For example, in MBBS, I'm just giving you an example. In MBBS, you do it through one second, is there something? Okay, in MBBS you do it through your practical exams, your vivas, and your theory exams. This is your uh, analysis, your qualitative and quantitative analysis. Quantitative analysis means your theory paper. Qualitative analysis means your viva. This is your how will you assess. Your success indicators means minimum percentage 50%, whether you will pass or fail. And your outcome means your final result, whether you have passed or whether you have failed. Did you understand this or should I explain it again? No, yes, no, yes. Okay, amazing.
Okay, Salwa, you are on fire right now. So thank you for your question answer. And the next question is to Arsan. That is, what is one factor most importantly that can determine the success of an activity?
Okay, so I feel like this is the best question that I have received today, because the whole point of this session and the whole point of me inviting Sahiba and also conducting this entire session today was for you guys to basically understand the daunting concepts that are smart objectives and smart indicators. I feel like, according to me personally, those two things are the most important in determining the success of the activity, because they also determine and they help you determine the impact that you have as an activity. So I feel like if you are able to understand the impact of the activity, you will be able to understand the success of the activity. And all of that is just linked to your smart objectives and smart indicators. So for me, that would be the most important factor. And not just for me, whenever you guys submit your activity for enrollments internationally, whenever you submit them for activities fairs, whenever you submit them for X-Crossty awards, these are the two things that carry the most weightage in determining if your activity will proceed to at least the shortlisted top activities for those competitions. So I feel like if you guys had anything to take away today home that would be the concept of smart objectives and smart indicators, because ultimately those are the most confusing concepts, those are the most daunting concepts for IFMSA members and activity coordinators. And the whole purpose of us organizing this session today was to make you guys more comfortable with these concepts and to help you guys be able to apply them whenever you're designing your activity. So yeah, that would be the most important factor for me determining the success.
Okay. Thank you, Arsalan. I think objectives and indicators are kind of like the uh, route for successful activities. And then moving on to Sahiba's question. Um, if our activity consisted of an impactful video or an online advocacy campaign, what would be the evaluation method used? And this kind of ties into the question that is before it. What are the different evaluation methods that can be used?
Um, if I give you a fun fact, I learned all about activity management from two people. One is Sanya, who was VPA 2019 2020, and Katya, who was my VPA, National VPA at the same time. They taught me everything about activities. I asked the same question to them, and they said the next time that you find a method of evaluation other than pre and post event methods, please let us know. So I'm saying the same thing to you. If you have an idea of a pre and post event, of a evaluation method other than a pre and post event questionnaire, please let me know, because I mean, I would really want to know. But apart from that, I think if we are talking about, I'm really sorry, I don't have an answer for that. I mean, I'm very, very sorry. Um, but if anyone does, then please do let me know as well. Apart from that, an impactful video or an online advocacy campaign. Um, Number one, probably you could look at the number of views. You could also talk about maybe the change that you made. For example, you could check up, for example, if you have people signing the petition, maybe the number of people who've signed the petition could be one thing that you look at. Maybe the number of people who retweeted that cause could be one thing that you could ask people to tweet and then retweet and see how far that goes. Maybe the number of likes on an Instagram. But these are very general indicators, what I'm trying to say. These are not your quantitative specific indicators in which you are going to evaluate exactly how much change you made. Or you could probably put your success indicator as, I remember I did this activity. It was the only, in fact it was the only advocacy kind of activity that we got in each EHRH, and I was the activity coordinator for that. The activity was addressing violence against doctors in India, and at that time it was rampant. So what we did was we asked our medical students in their colleges to convince their deans or whoever in their college is responsible to have a code blue or a code violet for their students as a protection for the doctors working in the hospital. So what our success indicator was, we had 53 local officers. Our success indicator was number of our objective was the number of medical students or the number of colleges who are actually incorporating a code violet. My success indicator was, out of 50 colleges that I was having under me, only three, literally only three colleges should have a code violet. And trust me, I think not more than five had a code violet. So out of 50, my success indicator was just three, but they did not. So this is another way in which we found our evaluation. We found our outcome. We assessed it on the basis of the change that we made on ground. This could be done in advocacy, but we did not have pre and post event questionnaires for this activity. We only assessed whether the college incorporated the code violet or did not. So that was how we evaluated it. But quantitatively, there is no other way except a pre-event or a post-event questionnaire. So if you can find it out, please do let me know as well. It would be amazing for the next term.
Okay, so do we have any other questions? We'll wait for another 20 seconds or so.
Guys, we'll be waiting for 20 seconds. So if you have any questions, whether it's for me or for Sahiba, You guys can even unmute your mics and ask us, or you can send it in the chat box. We are all here to clear your queries. Any questions that you have?
Okay, so Sahiba is nodding to that uh, comment that yes,
Yes,
Mentimeter is also an evaluation method.
yes. It is a method of evaluation, not an indicator. So if I'm saying 70% of people should be able to state the correct answer on Mentimeter, it is a kind of an indicator.
Okay, so I'm assuming there are no other questions. If you have any other questions, you can use our WhatsApp group so that we can then forward it to the presenters. So with this, we wrap up this webinar, this really insightful and hopefully effective webinar. Thank you, Saiba and Arsalan, for your time and for making all the basic components that fall under activities so much more easier for us to understand. And also thank you all those who joined us and made this webinar so much more interactive with your questions and your participation. We really hope that you can now put all of this into practice and come up with activities that can actually make an impact. So with this, we'll just end the webinar, and you can leave any feedback that you have in the WhatsApp group as well. Arsalan, you want to add something?
Yeah, okay. So thank you so much, Sakina, for giving me the opportunity to end the session, as well as I would like to thank Nayab and Sakina for moderating the session so well and for helping us conduct such a sports session. And guys, we also streamed it live on YouTube, and the entire recording is available on IFMSA Pakistan's YouTube channel. The slides will also be shared with all of you through email as well as through the WhatsApp group. And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Saiba, who has joined us by taking time out of her busy schedule. So, and it was such a great, insightful opportunity for us to learn more about smart objectives, smart indicators, the entire activity management scenario. So, thank you so much, Sahiba, and we're honored to have you on board with us today. And if you would like to say any parting remarks, so please do that.
Okay, thank you so much, firstly, for inviting me. I think I said this in the beginning. The pleasure was absolutely mine. And I must say, this has been by far, in my 3 years of IFMSA, this has been the most interactive session that I've been a part of. And I'm extremely happy. I hope at least, like, if I talk about it, at least 70% of you were able to understand about activity management. So it feels good. If you have any doubts, please feel free to reach out. I'm sending my email address. Um, and let me know if you have anything. So thank you so much for inviting me. And Arsalan, you've been a great PPA. And I hope you have a good term.
Thank you so much, Saiba, and it was our honor to have you today with us. And I'm glad that people were able to understand. And honestly, guys, thank you so much for the participation. We love the enthusiasm. We love the fact that you guys were participating, interacted, and asked all of your questions. And if you still have any, Sahiba has dropped her email. We have the WhatsApp group. She's in it as well. You guys can address her while asking your questions. So you guys can even contact her personally through WhatsApp as well. So good luck, everyone. And we really hope with this webinar, you guys will be able to design impactful activities. And we hope to see you guys win awards for them as well. So good luck. And with this, we mark the end of the session. And we'll see you guys hopefully in the next one if there is. Take care and have a great night.
Office guys, take care, stay safe and healthy.